And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Unorthodox podcast. I have no idea when this will be released. Maybe this week, maybe the week, 2 weeks after the election. Maybe, you know what? Fuck it.
Topical.
I might just release it. Very, very topical.
Yeah.
Although, probably it might release tomorrow from my perspective. I'm going to stop talking.
Huh.
I'm rambling right now. Yes. So, as we know, Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. Most likely, if barring shenanigans. But
Yeah.
last week
I mean,
we had
that's what's gonna happen, honestly.
Yeah.
But I have no idea what would happen that would stop it at this point.
There's been a lot of people saying the election's stolen, but we'll get to that. It's quite funny. No, but yes,
Yeah.
not in studio is a tech guy. You saw him last week. Kenny cannot be here. We'd like to offer our condolences to his family. We tried to connect to him to a computer, but yeah, he was running the interview through a car with the garage door shut, so it wasn't. He didn't take the news too well.
I'm not really tracking this.
It's a suicide joke, tech guy.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
We get dark here.
Yeah.
All right. So first, which that'd be more appropriate. He wasn't even like a full-on Kamala guy. He's just like very casual about it. It's a
Yeah.
joke
I
doesn't
would,
even
well,
really
I
work
would
for him.
say I'm not either. I would say I am much more solidly than him, but
I guarantee
definitely
you have a
both of
white
us
dudes for
solidly.
Kamala shirt somewhere.
I do not. That is.
Oh my
I
god!
would like to.
Why did they think that would be a good
that.
idea? Let's just jump right into that. As a Kamala Harris voter, do you know anyone who Josh Gad resonated with in telling them to vote for Kamala Harris? I think that turned a lot of people off.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm gonna be honest. I have not even heard of this.
Really? Oh, yeah, you're not chronically online like I am. Good for you.
No, I think I am chronically online, just like in a different way than you are.
Okay, that's a very good
and I wouldn't
thing.
necessarily say chronic. I feel like we inhabit the internet in very different
That's fair.
spheres.
That's fair. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, but basically it was this campaign, like official camp. I almost just spilled all of my water. Wow, I caught it. I was sick.
That was
No, but
pretty.
wasn't it?
reflex
It was
ninja.
this
That was good.
whole campaign from the Kamala Harris. It was like they did a whole live stream thing. It was Josh Gad, Mark Ruffalo, all the Avengers actors on four, even Robert Downey Jr., which really bummed me out. And they were talking, the least masculine men you could ever see being like, we're men and we're voting for Kamala Harris. Aren't we cool? And it was the worst thing I have ever seen.
Yeah.
I will be the most pro-choice person ever if it means I can never see that again.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly that's an example of like the Harris campaign being like, oh yeah, men aren't voting for Kamala Harris because she's a woman, so we're gonna try to target that specifically. And I feel like
bring out the lady men,
like bringing that up and being like, men aren't voting for Kamala, and then I don't know. I feel like acknowledging it honestly was kind of a mistake in a way. You know what I mean? I don't know how you do it's okay.
It wasn't really a mistake. Yeah. It wasn't really a mistake, but they went about it the wrong. And every time they put out Tim Walz out there
to
try
way to do it.
See, I don't know either.
Yeah, I know. I feel like no matter how you do that, that's like a cringy thing to do.
And every time they brought out Tim Walz to try to do something, like that to bring men in, he fucked it up every single time. You see that hunting trip thing where he's like, oh yeah, I go pheasant hunting every year. And they gave him a gun and he's very clearly never held a gun in his entire life. First of all, I watched the whole thing. The second he grabs a shotgun, the first thing he does is kind of swinging around. Which you've ever taken a gun safety class, even if you check that thing is not loaded 1,000 times, you never ever do that. Also, to actually load it, he put the butt on his inner hip and like he was loading a crossbow. He's never held a gun in his entire life, and it was very obvious. And the whole he did this also Madden NFL Xbox live stream with AOC. And he tweeted out afterwards, AOC runs a mean pick six. And I know you don't watch a ton of football. No one who has ever played, coached, or watched football has ever said the term runs a mean pick six. Because it's just something that happens.
You do have them there, yeah. It's like it's not an intentional thing.
It's
great
thing,
when it happens, but it's not the plan. It's
God.
never the plan.
Oh no, yeah. So you know what? Okay, we got a little off
Here's
topic.
the other thing
Not
too.
off.
Like, I mean, what happened? Like, did she like make a lot of interceptions? Did she pick six like a few times?
I didn't watch the full thing. I watched a few
I don't know.
clips.
Maybe it happened, and maybe I don't know.
Still
But
doesn't matter. You still don't say runs a mean pick six.
Yeah, weird thing to say.
It was. I know during I saw clips.
I mean, he was
like,
a football
well,
coach,
if you're drawing
to
up,
be fair.
He was an assist. He was like an assistant lineman coach. Let's be real.
Well,
he was
yeah,
a guy who showed up, and the other coach was like, "Oh God, we have to let him in. It's a school thing."
Okay,
every
also,
football team has a coach like that. You played in middle school, you know that.
Let's be fair.
He was
to,
that guy.
Let's be fair to linemen in general. Come on. You are a lineman. That's like a very important job.
I was a defensive lineman. We're a pathetic offense. You just sit there and no. All right, so we got a little off topic, but not really. What was your initial reaction? Were you watching coverage first of all on Tuesday night?
No, on Tuesday night I had a nice beer in my hand, and I was on a call with some of my siblings, and I was trying to ignore the election as much as I could because I kind of knew it was going to happen. Despite what the polling was saying, I just had this is like usually I would say I'm like kind of like a by the numbers sort of person, you know, I'm like, oh, the numbers say this, probably right, but I just had a feeling. I was I was yeah.
Speaking of polling, as two native Iowans, did you buy that the poll? It was like a week before the election that Harris was up something like 3 points in Iowa.
Well, I know that was like a very specific poll, and I didn't buy it for a second.
However, no one did.
It did make me happy for Iowa because I don't know. Growing up, one thing that I really liked about Iowa is that they were kind of like not super like partisan, you know.
We're a swing state either way.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Iowa, they look at the issues and they make a decision, and they're not just driven by ideology, which I feel
we voted for Obama twice.
Exactly, which I kind of had felt was lost. I mean, especially like in the last 12 years, you know, like driving through, and you know, I just felt like that wasn't the case anymore. And seeing that Iowa could potentially swing, that was really encouraging. Not necessarily because I thought Iowa was going to swing, but because it reminded me like, hey, the thing that I really like about Iowa, which is that it's just a bunch of pragmatic folks trying to make government work the best that it can, you know, is something that maybe is still more true than I had perceived. You know,
and your reaction when the actual results came out?
Let me be clear that that's not because they were voting for Kamala. It's because they were in the middle, you know, because they were making like sense. That's you know, they were thinking about it. you know,
that's fair.
Yeah.
Right. I was just about to ask something. I don't remember. So when did you actually find out? Like, did you ever actually look at the results as the night was going on?
Okay, so no, well, okay. I came home and I had this plan, and then my household had other ideas. Let's just say, that's all I'll say. Is like, it was very hard to ignore election coverage.
Of course.
But anyway, I was doing a pretty good job. I was doing a decent job. And then like right before I went to bed, I looked at my phone and I saw a text from you. I was like,
what? Okay. To be totally clear, I don't remember that.
I don't know.
It was. It was the Eye of Sauron falling. Is what it was. I remember that.
Yeah. And
I don't remember.
I was like, oh no, maybe this won't be real when I wake up in the morning. And then I woke up in the morning and I just kind of laid in bed.
I had a blast Tuesday night. Early on, I decided, you know what? I'm going to do a shot for every state Trump wins. It was the worst decision.
Bad idea.
See, that's the.
Can he tell you?
I started with hard liquor, but as the night went on, I was doing wine shots by the end of the night. I just couldn't do the vodka. Yeah. I was hammered, but I had such a blast just watching that. Twitter was a great place to be the next few days.
Oh, I bet.
Because it was filled with
No,
Go
no,
continue. Sorry.
yeah,
No,
no,
yeah.
you say your thing.
It was filled with right-wing Twitter, just like absolutely having a great time. Lots of Lord of the Rings memes. That's why I posted that. All
Yeah,
Return of the King. And the left just, melting down and not knowing if they should blame the voters, America in
yeah,
general,
exactly.
Kamala, Biden, or the voting machines getting hacked by Starlink somehow,
Yeah.
which is a real thing I saw.
I saw this really good video this morning actually. I'm gonna be honest, I'm like just starting to like listen to the news a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's been tough for me. um but I saw this really good video by Hank Green this morning, and
I
he
know
was
that guy.
going through like tweets from like mostly the left and being like, these are like good and bad election takes. And it was a really great video because he's like,
What were
this is
some
the
of them?
worst thing that you could say. Like, for instance, like at the beginning of the video, he had the worst election take. So at the beginning of the video, it was like, Trump voters are stupid and that's why they voted for Trump. He's like, this is the worst take.
It's
Why are
most
we
of the
saying
country at this
this?
point.
This is a horrible take. And then at the end of the video, it had takes like, well, if you look globally, incumbents lost the last election by like an overwhelming margin everywhere because
Yep.
there's been a global recession. So that's probably one of the biggest explanations we can see.
Yep.
It's just that like incumbents did not do well.
That is
Not,
interesting to know.
just like over the last year of
Yep.
elections, like
That is
globally.
interesting to note, but one thing I've noticed, it isn't really incumbents. It's more like a kind of populist uprisings across
Yeah,
mainly the
well, I
U.S.
think
and Europe,
it is both things, and I think that it's
except
because
England.
first
They'll
of
never get
all,
it right.
populist uprisings, they are really really well, um, they're really good in the current media landscape because populist uprisings are very
Sure.
tweetable, very reelable, very very easy to make like a splashy like piece of short form content that's like, I don't know, Trump's gonna save you, or I don't know, uh, who else? Let's say,
The chicken Italy.
yeah, exactly. Maloney is like our savior. Easy to make
Yeah.
like a really like splashy, um, thing about like a populist point, because the whole point of populism is that it's like, I don't know, it's just like really kind of simple takes that are popular.
Yeah.
Like
That's fair.
people are like, yeah. So yeah, the populist uprising, that's like very well tuned for the media landscape we're in currently. Yeah. Also, global recession post COVID. You know,
And
that
that
was
that
like
ship thing in the
not
Suez
good for
Canal had way
economists.
more of an effect than we thought it did.
The ship in the
The
Suez
the
Canal.
ship went sideways and blocked the whole thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, I forgot about that. That's
It
like
was hilarious
that was a whole trip. Yeah, like we had supply chains globally collapse. Man,
because one
okay,
asshole
no, because of
wasn't
COVID,
it.
and
Oh, I
then
thought no.
because of
you're
someone getting
okay. You're
stuck in
going.
the
Yeah.
Suez Canal, that
Yeah,
like
that's what I was
right as we
referring
were
to.
trying to recover like global supply chains, a ship gets stuck in the Suez
Yep.
Canal and shuts it
Well,
down
the
for like
first one was
several
also one
weeks.
asshole, and his name is Anthony Fauci. Anyway, what was the
Well,
biggest?
I wouldn't necessarily say that because that was happening globally, like
Well, I'm
people
more
were
referring
shutting
to the
down.
funding of the Wuhan lab. But anyway,
I don't
Clara,
know.
what is your problem? Why are you whining? No, sorry, Clara's like bitching about nothing. Anyway,
Uh,
what was the biggest surprise for you on Tuesday night or afterwards, whenever
or
you caught up with the
afterwards,
results? What was the biggest surprise? States
I'm
that
gonna
were
be
won.
honest. I'm gonna be honest. Like, actually, you know what? The fact that he won the popular vote, I
Yeah,
wasn't ready for
yep,
because he never had.
I'll agree with that.
I was like,
Yep,
okay, yeah, he's
we
never done this.
Republicans
Like,
haven't since like
I don't think
2004.
that. Yeah. I was pretty surprised that he actually
Yeah,
ended up winning the popular vote, and I was like, dang, because which is an interesting thing too, because me and Kenny were both like, we think that he's going to sweep all of like, if the swing states go one direction, they're like most of them are going to go that direction. Is kind of what we were thinking for no
yeah.
apparent reason. That was just a
I didn't
bias.
think they would.
Yeah.
I thought Pennsylvania and maybe Wisconsin or Michigan or something like that. I didn't think all of them.
Yeah. No, I didn't think all of them either. Like
No,
that was
no one
pretty
did.
nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I was surprised he won the popular vote.
Yep.
But honestly, I should have guessed that given the fact that I was saying that most of the swing states would probably go one direction.
Yeah.
So if Trump won, yeah, I probably would win the popular vote in that case. So I don't know. It's an
Because
example of Weston not thinking that hard.
yeah,
You
well,
know,
him doing that is interesting because it like I don't know how to say this. In 2016 and a little bit in 2020 and before this election, you had a lot of the internet leftists were talking about how we need to abolish the electoral college
hmm
because majority vote, even though that's stupid because then New York and
yeah,
LA would decide every election. And if you want an actual uprising in this country, abolish the electoral college.
yeah,
But
yeah. I don't
now
know.
that argument is completely non-existent. That's why I don't think we'll actually see any riots or massive protests, at
Yeah.
least in the initial phase, like at the inauguration, because there's just that massive mandate.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I honestly, I do kind of, I am kind of slightly pro electoral college. I definitely see what
Good.
people think are saying when they're like,
I don't.
this is a bad idea, because, well, because in quite a few elections actually recently, we've all kind of said we want this to happen, and the opposite thing has happened.
Well, that
Like
doesn't really
most
matter.
people have had their will. Yeah, and I mean, the
And
electoral college is
the
good
scale
because
we're working at in the U.S. doesn't matter.
yeah, well, and I think the other thing about the electoral college that I mean, the basic defense that I think a lot of people have and that I, kind of stand by is that the electoral college keeps rural voters safe from
Yep.
the majority, like the mass in the city who doesn't understand rural
Yep.
issues,
Exact. There's
and
an
doesn't
interesting kind
understand
of
that they rely on rural,
yep.
areas. Now,
There's an interesting kind
yeah,
of case study involving in Michigan. I think it was like 2014 in the Upper Peninsula. Disconnected from the main Michigan.
hmm
There were wolves, gray wolves, like attacking farmers and their
uh,
ranchers and their sheep and stuff. And so there was a big vote. It was like, all right, should we increase the amount of wolves that hunters and these ranchers can kill? And for some reason, they put the vote to the entire state,
yeah,
including Detroit and Grand Rapids. And
people
since
who
they don't
don't
know shit,
understand that it's a
they
problem.
voted no, don't kill the wolves.
Yeah.
And so people in the Upper Peninsula are attacked by wolves because douchebags in Detroit don't want
Yeah.
people to hunt.
I mean, like,
That
they
is a
just don't
perfect case
understand the
study
issue.
for
Yeah.
why we need the electoral
Like
college.
they haven't been near the issue. They don't
No,
understand it. So like,
absolutely not.
you can't really blame them for like going, we want to save the wolves. I probably would do that too, but I wouldn't have understood the issue. That's not like
Well, it's a
good
lot worse in
take,
Detroit now
It's a
because of
misinformed
how
take.
terrible it is. There's a lot of like drug dealers loose, like cooters and tigers loose in the city. Detroit is not a great American city. I think there's less than it's incredibly corrupt. There's, I think, less than 1 million people living there, and it's like
Man.
parts of downtown are full on a zoo where there's bears and like walking alongside meth heads.
I'm not gonna lie, I find that hard to believe, but
It
it
is.
is
I am
funny.
100% being serious. You can
Yeah.
look this up. There are wild animals roaming the streets of Detroit. It is World War Z over there.
Wild
Not even a
animals and
little bit of a joke.
zombies.
Well, fentanyl, yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Like xylazine,
Yeah.
is that the one? I don't know.
Yeah.
Dr. Nick could let me know about that one. What are you most looking forward to in the next Trump administration?
Oh man, that's an interesting question. Man, it is hard for me to say that there's like, I mean, I'm going to be honest, just about every one of Trump's policies, I was like, this is nuts. This is like, I don't, like his take on schools, he like kind of wants to privatize schools, in a major way. Like a lot of his policies are moving in that direction. And that scares me. Uh, but, but yeah, back to the question, man, what is something I maybe am looking forward to? Um, I I am interested to see if the tariffs will work out in a way that is more counter to the traditional narrative of how tariffs generally work.
That's the
Um,
thing. And I
you
didn't know
know,
this until very recently, but the people, even on the right, demonize Trump for the tariffs a lot. But
mhm.
Joe Biden kept in like 90 something percent of
Well,
Trump's
yeah.
tariffs.
Well, and the reason is because once you start protecting an
And I didn't know
industry,
that.
it's very difficult to repeal that because that industry is kind of dependent on the tariffs, right? So it's really tough to get rid of a tariff, and they generally decrease trade in both directions. They decrease imports and they decrease exports because once you put in a tariff, that also decreases the supply which increases the price,
Well, I don't think there's
domestic
anything wrong
goods,
with wanting to
right?
kind of tighten our belt a little bit, especially in the case of China, who we might be at war
Yeah,
with very
I mean,
soon.
kind of, but here's actually like going back to global supply chains. Here's I think one of the things that's really kind of freaky about tariffs is nothing is built in one place anymore, right? So if, for instance, you are a car company in Germany and you rely on an American part, generally, like, you will get retaliatory tariffs. Generally, if you put a tariff on someone, they often will, put a tariff on you, right? So if you're a German supplier or manufacturer of cars, right, and you're relying on a part that's manufactured in, you know, India, and then, or China, maybe China, and then assembled in the U.S. There's like, and that several things are assembled in the U.S. and then are sent to Germany, right? You are not going to use the American factory anymore, because all of a sudden the American factory that's, sourcing parts from China, they get a 60% price hike on the parts that they're, sourcing from China, and a 20% price hike on the parts that they're, sourcing from India and Japan, right? And then they're assembling them, and all of a sudden the cost of this thing that they've assembled and then added and, done extra things to is massively inflated. And so the German company says, we don't want to buy from you. Why would we buy from you? We're going to buy from someone else somewhere else. So that's one of the really freaky things about tariffs that I think could really come to bite us, is that, nothing is assembled in one place. Things are assembled like everywhere all the time. So, you might have like a car that's produced domestically, right? You have a domestically produced car in America, made in America, right? Ford plants source parts from all over the world. So, like, a Ford car that's mostly assembled in America is going to get 20% more expensive because we don't make all the parts. Like, no one makes all the parts. No one,
No,
and so
no.
that's the really freaky thing about tariffs, is not only that generally they decrease imports and exports both in both directions. So, like, if you put a tariff on washing machines, that usually means we export less washing machines and we import less washing machines. Um, you know, it also can have these weird compounding effects because of the way the global supply chains work. So I'm rather concerned about the tariffs, because
Here,
Donald Trump has been super aggressive about this, and most economists are like, this is crazy. We shouldn't do this. You can find some fringe people who say that it's a good thing. The benefit is that it does create resilience in supply chains. So if you can't source from everywhere, all of a sudden you do have to start consolidating your supply chains and, producing more things domestically.
and I think
But
that's
the
the
really
goal with him.
freaky, yeah, that is the goal. The thing is that usually when you try to do that, you do like what the Biden administration did, which is say like, oh, we have these like specific types of chips, and we're going to put a tariff on those specific chips, and we're going to give a subsidy for those chips so that we can hopefully grow this industry domestically, which they did. They opened a factory. They opened like one of the first chip factories of its kind in the U.S. Uh, and like that was a successful policy with tariffs. And the other thing too is being able to get rid of the tariff eventually, because often a domestic industry will start to rely on a tariff. So
Yeah.
industrial policy, which is a component of industrial policy, could be tariffs. It's a really tricky thing, and it's really hard to get right.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah, the tariffs. I would be interested maybe to see if I'm wrong on that. Because yeah, that really turns our understanding of some things upside down.
Okay. That's fair.
So I guess that would be interesting. I don't know. What are some policies you think I would be excited about? Because the
Oof,
other thing
that's
is
a good
like,
question.
I really don't like
From
this
my
guy,
perspective.
and so I'm probably not looking for the things that
Hmm.
that I might
Let
like
me
as hard as I
let me
maybe should be.
think. Policies that you would I See, it's hard to say before the administration even gets started. It'd be a lot easier to do this posthumously. I don't know how to say that word. I've only seen it written. Um, I think you're going to like his foreign policy more than you're going to like to admit,
Maybe, potentially. I
especially
don't
in
know.
regards to like Ukraine and Israel.
There's a
Because have you
chance.
seen where Qatar has basically said like Hamas, you are no longer allowed in this country, and they expelled everyone who's in it, and Hamas even been like, we want to end this war. Like the night of the election, they started talking about how they want to end the
Huh.
war.
I
I
mean,
think they're.
yeah. Like, I
I
mean,
think
yeah, it'd be good.
a lot of people are very very terrified right now,
Yeah.
and the right
The thing
people
that
are.
I would really be worried about is that Donald Trump like sides with Israel on everything and doesn't go, oh, Benjamin Netanyahu like is the one who botched a ceasefire deal, and was like the one who was kind of not allowing hostages to return. And I mean, that's people within Benjamin Netanyahu's administration who have said that, yeah, it's Benjamin Netanyahu who is really botching some of these deals to get hostages back and do ceasefires. So that's the thing that I'd
Usually
be
the
worried
deals
about
are always
is that
beneficial for Hamas.
he would be well. I mean that is a narrative, but there's also a
Well,
lot
it's
of
the narrative because the
narratives from
hostages are
within
bargaining
Israel.
chips, which they're using basically,
Well, yeah,
which
but
they're
there's
using
a
to
lot
good
of
effect.
narratives from within Israel that are like we could have gotten them back and we didn't because Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to
Yeah, but
continue
it's
his ground
situations
war.
get them back
The other thing
at the
is
expense of keeping Hamas intact, which at this
what
point you just can't do that.
well, the other thing too is like if there
It's a
was an
shit
official,
situation. I don't know. It's
forgot
hard, but
there was an
I don't
official
want to be
that
Netanyahu.
there was an official from his cabinet who recently resigned, or I think he did his term. I don't know, but anyway, he left the administration today, and yeah, his comments were basically like, "Yeah, we've done pretty much everything we can on the ground in Gaza." Um, Benjamin Netanyahu has not been letting this end, and we could have, had ceasefires, we could have had hostages back, but we're just kind of continuing this, and there's not really a huge reason, which kind of is what I've been thinking is, yeah, it's gone on too long, and I think we've thrown too much blind support behind Israel.
See, and I want to move past this because we're getting off topic. But
Yeah.
one thing I will say though, I mean, Netanyahu's in a situation where Hamas has broken every single ceasefire, and to leave them alive would be responsible for whatever deaths they later decide to do in the next operation. But I mean, I don't want to be Netanyahu. It's a shit position to
Yeah.
be in, but I don't want to make those decisions. Anyway, what goddamn it! I need to start writing my questions down. Oh, here we go. Like you said, you haven't really been on social media much, so you maybe have not seen these. Along with this episode, so I have decided that I'm releasing this whole big, probably 3-hour post-election episode special tonight or tomorrow, whenever YouTube downloads it. But I have a montage in there, about 20 minutes of complete leftist meltdowns about talking about how Trump's going to take away women's rights. It's The Handmaid's Tale. One of them is a woman discussing how you can make poison for your husband who voted Trump's Aqua something. It's an old Italian thing. I'm not joking. You'll be able to see this.
Yeah.
What would your response to some you have, as you know, with your family and people you probably know?
Mm-hmm.
What would your response be to, I guess, mostly women who are afraid that, how do I say this? Handmaid's Tale is about to come to life.
Well,
Stop being silly, bitches.
maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say because the thing is that like Donald Trump's Supreme Court said that they wouldn't overturn Roe v. Wade, and then they did. Like Donald Trump.
In all fairness,
saying
they
that
lied.
Yeah, exactly. They lied, and Donald Trump has been saying, "Oh, like we wouldn't do anything more with abortion or IVF or."
Well, they can. It's back to the states, which is where it
yeah,
should be.
like, yeah, exactly. Like that's the idea.
And to be fair, here's my response to what them has been.
Control or no fault divorce, like kind of a lot of these like things that are like women's issues. No fault divorce. That's there so that women who are being abused, like, don't have to prove that they're being abused. That they can just leave, right?
It's less than 1% that are actually abused to use that. Mostly it's just
but I mean,
get bored in a relationship.
But also it's really important for that 1%. And the other thing is domestic abuse is chronically underreported. So I would question that 1% as well. I do think that domestic abuse is less common than it used to be. However, if you have a no fault divorce law,
To be fair, she did not put bologna on the sandwich.
no. But
So I gave her a knuckle one.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, like birth control, a lot of these kind of things that we've taken for granted, I think that there's a pretty good chance that none of them will change.
They won't. Here's the thing.
There's a pretty good chance.
Here's a few more questions.
But
Who was president when Roe v. Wade
hesitant
was
to
overturned?
say that
Hate this
that they won't change. I mean,
I don't think they will.
saying that Biden was president when Roe v. Wade was overturned is kind of like,
Well, he didn't do
I don't
anything
know, it's kind
to
of like
resolve it, basically, because they wanted it to campaign on it. The midterms.
well, yeah, I mean, it's
and
kind of like saying that Biden caused Roe v. Wade to
I
be
didn't say he
overturned,
caused it. I'm not saying he caused it. I'm saying he didn't. Just their whole thing was, Kamala's whole thing was, if you elect me, we're going to codify Roe v. Wade in the Constitution. Biden had 2 years to do that, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
makes think
And
Kamala would have?
I think that
That's
that
what I meant
was
by that,
kind
not
of
that he caused it.
I think that was kind of a, if we can pull it off, we'll do it. But I don't think
I don't think so.
legislatively they really could have pulled that off.
No, of course not. It's going to stay at the states.
Necessarily
Who else
how
thought
the
it should be at the
government
states?
works. Yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg also thought it should stay to the states. To went on the what's it called? I don't know what their little paper that says why we voted for this thing. Initially, when Roe v. Wade is passed, she said this is bad law. It's going to get overturned eventually, but I had to vote for it because Democrats, stuff like that. So she knew feminist champion Ruth Bader Ginsburg knew this was going to happen. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. My whole thing with that whole topic.
Your
is that
body, my choice, women.
Well, it's like it's
Joking,
such a
joking.
tough issue. If you're actually looking at it and if you're actually grappling with that issue, it's a really tough issue, and that's why I think people should be allowed to choose how they feel on it. Is because like if you're really paying attention, if you're really like thinking critically about that, it's really, really tough. And there are some really tough scenarios that happen with that. And people fiercely disagree on this.
Yeah, well, of course.
And so I think people should be allowed to make their own choices on this. That's really where I stand on that.
On abortion or feeling the way about it?
On abortion, yeah. Yeah.
Well, of course, we both have our disagreements on that. I know you have the bloodlust for infants, but...
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing.
Continue to demonize the other side.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah, but...
and I, of course, hate women.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't actually... I don't like babies. I just despise women so much. I see them grocery shopping, and I say, why are you not wearing one of those Afghan hoods? It disgusts me. Ankles?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, but
disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, I do worry a little bit about those sorts of things. I think they probably won't change, but I do think that they could. I think that we made them more likely to change with the current administration that's in.
You know who Matt Walsh is?
Unfortunately,
I love the guy. He made this video post-election. I need to figure out how to... Hold on.
Consistently, like the worst, most he takes ever.
No. Listen, I wish I could connect OBS to this because there's a video he made post-election that has death threats being sent to him. It's like, look, I know a lot of women out there are concerned that you're going to get your rights taken away now that Donald Trump is president. He goes into this whole tirade. It's like, of course you will not get your rights taken away. You will still have the right to vote. You will have the right to vote for whoever your husband tells you to vote for, who will always be Donald Trump. I encourage you to watch the video. It's just this whole 3-minute sarcastic asshole-ish thing. That's fantastic. I did not have Matt Walsh becoming basically conservative Borat on my 2024 bingo card, but he is there. He's the greatest troll I've ever seen on the right. I can't do what he does. I need to pack it up because of that.
Yeah.
That video is one of those things that, as a comedian, that made me angry.
Unabashed, I feel like you have to be as deep as he is to be able to
We've earned it. After the 4 years, we've earned the right to be dicks this election cycle. Post-election.
I don't think anyone has the right to be unpleasant. I don't know.
I think we do. They threw one of our guys in prison for a joke after January 6th. No, it was after the election itself, not Yeah, it was someone who told a joke about like, oh, Democrat Biden voters, you guys have to vote on like this day at this place, and that wasn't on
Yeah.
Friday or something like that. And they threw, hey guys, he went to trial this week, I think. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel made the exact same joke like 2 weeks ago, and then now he's crying on air.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is like he's a comedian, you know.
So
Like,
was this guy. So was
pretty
this
clear.
guy is the crazy thing. So was this guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Difference was
I'll maybe
tweet
bite on
versus
that.
late night monologue.
Yeah, that also is much different. Yeah, a tweet is much easier to like see that and not know who it is. But I mean, I think that maybe throwing the guy in prison, a little bit overkill.
Very
I'll
much
admit
so.
that.
Very much
that was
so.
Maybe a little bit of overkill. You should have maybe done a cease and desist. You maybe should have had to pay a fine.
Not even that. Nothing.
Like, I'm
nothing
saying,
should have
like,
happened to him.
No. I think that we should be taking that kind of thing seriously. But
For free speech.
I think that's not free speech.
Yes, it is. Well, here's the
Free
thing. And
speech,
the argument was like,
I
oh,
would
this
say-
many people actually believed it. It's like, okay, it's not his fault. They're retards.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that that's like closer to the kind of shouting fire in a crowded building. You know.
You can also shout fire in a crowded building if there's a fire.
Yeah, but that's not what was happening.
I know.
You know.
Point is, we won. Make this shit
Yeah.
great again. Okay, next question. What do you think about the massive demographic shift that happened this election? Because as we've seen, I don't know if you've seen these numbers, Trump gained with every single demographic except, I believe, black women. Even
Yeah.
white women, that's Latinos. Native Americans broke for Trump at 64%, which has never
Wow.
happened ever.
That's incredible.
For the
That is
same reason the
I
Amish
have
did.
not heard that, but that's
Yeah.
kind of incredible.
For the same
Um,
reason the Amish did, because
I mean-
they kept dicking with their farming practices.
Oh, yeah.
They also put a bunch of
that's
migrants
interesting.
on tribal lands, which pissed
Yeah.
them off.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that honestly, I would just go back to the the incumbents are losing everywhere. So I mean, like these are groups that are heavily not voting for Republicans already.
Yeah.
So a small change will do a lot, and people being unsatisfied with the current administration, yeah, that'll do it. I saw like do you watch Left, Right, and Center at all?
I've seen clips.
Yeah. But yeah, his take was like, yeah, you think like Latinos only care about being Latino? They also care about the economy. They're just people.
They are very socially conservative Catholics.
Well, yeah, that is also true. Is that
Fuck the
people don't
wall, open up the
realize.
borders, let them all in. Fuck, voter ID is racist too.
Well,
Just
that's
let the
interesting
games
thing
begin.
that, like Republicans missed about like Hispanics is that they're very, very socially conservative generally,
Yeah.
And they maybe should have been more like path to immigration than they were, because they really, I don't know. It's getting a little bit like,
Well, I had that there. That is the rhetoric,
Like,
but
the
it's
thing
close
is-
the border first, send the illegals back, and then figure out the path to
well, yeah.
to
See, the
citizenship.
problem that I have with that take though is that it's always close the border and never path to citizenship. Like it always stops with close the border.
Well, yeah, because you have to shut down the flow first, because it's not just migrants coming through.
But
It's,
I feel
it's
like-
cartels, it's drugs.
Yeah, I feel like that's always like the excuse, but then it ends up just being like stem the flow, across the board. That's
That's
kind
fair.
of what I feel like usually ends up happening, is that we need more legal immigration ends up being like we just need less immigration. It's like a Trojan horse, I feel.
I've seen that
times,
before.
yeah.
I think it's easy to cross over to that, but I don't think that.
Yeah.
But
Maybe,
Next
yeah,
que- yeah.
yeah. That could be a bad take from me.
Yep.
That could just be me being, having bad faith. But
tying into that question, the major news networks have been a blast to watch just this past week,
Yeah.
because you will have this is all important to the question. You'll have a whole CNN panel, one guy calmly explain like, oh, the Trump campaign ran this entire commercial in like Florida and Pennsylvania and a bunch of other swing states about, oh, Kamala Harris is for they, them, Trump is for you. And the guy, talks about how letting boys and girls sports. And you'll
Mhm.
have one CNN host absolutely lose their shit about
Yeah.
how, oh, they voted because, they just hate gay people, stuff like that. Clearly, the left, from my perspective, is not learning jack shit. What is, if you had the entire Democratic establishment at your table right now, what is the one thing you would tell them to win the 2026 midterms or the 2028 election? The one thing they need to learn that they are currently not.
Oh, that they're currently not. Man, I
Just
don't know,
from my
to be
perspective at least.
honest.
Because yeah,
Well, I would say stop pandering. So, okay,
it's a good one.
this is maybe an interesting
Or
comparison.
pander to the right
You know
people.
how Wonder Woman was like a really good movie and also did feminism pretty well,
It was fine. Yeah.
right? It's because they made a good character and they made a good movie and they didn't like just take toxic masculinity and put it in a woman and call it feminism and um
Captain
and I
Marvel 2
think
comes to
that
mind.
kind of like pandering is where like a lot of like the bad like things where it's like this was a bad movie and also not a very critical take and not like this wasn't good work,
No.
right, in film, right? I think that you can take like that comparison and apply it to the Democratic Party where it's like they like pander to certain groups. Like, like Kamala goes on and she's like, oh, what do black dudes care about? They care about weed and crypto. Like, what? That's kind of racist,
No,
low key.
that's
Like,
very
that was like a
racist.
really bad
Oh,
take.
and they can't use
Why did she
computers. Don't
do
forget that
that?
one.
Yeah, like that was a really really weird take for her to take. Like that was like
Crypto.
honestly, yeah. Why did she do that?
I
Because I
don't know.
think that,
She's an idiot.
well, no,
We
I
all do
think that
this.
like you
Oh,
can see
jeez.
through that. And yeah, you're like it's easy to see through. Like you're just talking to people in the end. Like why can't we just treat people like people and not like try to put them in like little boxes and be like, oh, like what do these voters care about? I will say that I think that really why the Democrats lost the election um is because like they're an incumbent party and people have been
Mhm.
generally dissatisfied. I will say that that really is the take. I think that it's not anything
That's
that they
fair.
did horribly, horribly wrong. But like some of this
Campaign
like
wise,
really weird pandering, that was weird. Like pandering to men, like pandering to different demographics in these kind of tacky ways that honestly like caricatured them and was a little bit demeaning. I found that a little bit
it's getting
weird.
hot.
Like that was weird, and I feel like a lot of people from those demographics. I think some people felt seen maybe, but I also feel like a lot of people felt like someone was misrepresenting them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that was and once again, I'm a white guy, so I could be completely wrong on this. I could be super super wrong on that.
Don't just
But
count yourself because of that.
well, yeah, but also, I don't want to like you don't want to say that you can speak for everybody,
That's fair.
right?
White
Because I
knight.
can't,
No.
But the thing is that I think they did some really weird pandering that was kind of insulting in
Yep.
some instances. Like,
One thing I will say is that the left needs to stop pushing their own away, and the only way I can describe that is I've seen a lot of takes like, oh, the left for the next election need to build their own Joe Rogan, need to build their own Elon Musk. Leftist Joe Rogan and Elon Musk were Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. They
yeah,
were
I think
shoved
that
away
is
by the
actually
party.
kind of interesting. Yeah,
They
yeah.
were both Bernie bros,
Yeah.
and they endorsed Trump. They need to stop shoving their own away
I think that
for
is
minor
very true.
opinion infractions.
Yeah, because these people will step slightly out of line, and then they'll get ostracized essentially. Yeah,
Yep.
I think that does actually happen. I think that that's a valid thing to bring up. Yeah, um, yeah, and I mean, some of these things like are like genuinely like not okay, but I think that the level at which they have been
RFK
criticized,
Jr., another one.
yeah. Well, RFK Jr. had some wild takes from the get go. I'm not gonna lie, like
I liked him.
kind of like anti-vax, yeah, I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm not
Well, I
sure if
just saw something today.
RFK Jr. was ever really like a Democrat,
Well, he
Like,
was. If you go back like 20 years ago, he was very, for
Like-
the Democrat views at the time, very mainstream
Yeah.
Democrat.
yeah,
For again,
exactly.
what that was, which is
I don't think
basically
right
Republicans now.
Yeah, exactly. I think now he's not really a Democrat. He
Of
never
course
really
not.
was.
Neither,
Yeah.
well, neither is Rogan and Musk or Tulsi Gabbard
Yeah. Well,
because they were all
yeah.
shoved away.
No, I
Also-
think I do think that those cases are different than RFK though.
All
But
right,
yeah, no, I think you're
final
not wrong.
questions. Look me in the eyes and tell me you are not the least bit relieved you don't have to hear Kamala's cackle ever again.
Honestly, like it didn't bother me.
Oh, fuck you, it didn't.
Like,
There's no way, as a human being with ears that worked.
I don't know. I feel like someone with a very distinctive laugh, you know. So,
Oh,
um,
God. Also, what do you think of the conspiracy theory that the Bidens voted for Trump?
what?
Have
I
you
have
heard this
not
one?
heard of this, but this is interesting.
So, there's a whole thing where basically Joe Biden didn't leave the race of his own fruition. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and Kamala Harris essentially went up to him after the June 27th debate and said, drop out of the race or we are going to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove you from office. So he did. And then the plan was, all right, Pelosi just talked about this, I think this morning, that we're going to have an open primary. We're going to figure this out. Kamala will still probably win because, the finance, stuff like that. But Joe went out during his address and endorsed Kamala without any of them knowing he was going to do that and just basically fucked everyone else in the party as one big screw you, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Then, election day comes. We see Jill Biden walking out of the voting precinct wearing just like complete blood red, like whatever the woman version of a suit is. This is someone whose husband has been in politics his entire life. There's no way, surrounded by advisors 24/7, there's no way she didn't know how that would look wearing complete red on election day, walking out of the voting precinct. Also, watching Joe Biden's farewell address, that was the most spry and happy I have ever seen him since before 2019. Like he was just
actually,
walking. He didn't
okay.
stutter once. He spoke perfectly, and afterwards, when he walked off, he gave the biggest smile I have ever seen. I think he loved it.
To be fair, many times when people were
also one more thing, he did not show up to Kamala Harris's kind of like watch party. Which you think, okay, he's older, he's the president. It was at Howard University, 2 miles from the White House. That's not an Air Force One trip. That's a 2-minute drive.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't think.
I think they voted for Trump, or at the very least, we're happy he won. I don't know.
The other thing too is when people are like, "Wow, Joe Biden looks so like spry and like cogent," and the other thing that I was thinking is I was like, yeah, I've seen Biden gaffes, but I actually saw quite a bit of Biden speaking and looking more or less like this during his presidency. And I think that the reason so many people were like, wow, he looks like so normal is because they really only saw Biden when they were like, look, there's another Biden gaffe that just dropped,
No, because the reason they threw him out, not because his poll numbers were bad, is because he almost had a stroke on stage on June 27th.
Yeah.
It became not even the media could hide that one.
Well, yeah, no, that was it was an awful debate. However, there was a lot of speeches and things that he gave where he did seem completely fine, and I think that maybe there is a sense of like he's relieved that he doesn't have to deal with like all of the pressure that you would have to deal with under being president, but also
there's that he was basically
footage of him looking that good, in other venues, in other instances.
There is also that he is historically not like Kamala Harris, and he was basically forced to choose her as his running mate by the Democratic establishment because she called him a racist multiple times on stage during the 2020 primary debates. And they basically said, and the Obamas basically approached and said, Joe, you need to choose her because black woman.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
I just love that conspiracy so much that there's this huge infight. I would give all the money I will ever make the rest of my life to be a fly on the wall last Wednesday morning when she had to come back into the office.
Yeah.
Oh God, that'd be fantastic.
No, tough day for the Dems.
Oh God, you're damn right it was. All right, so we are coming up on our time. Tech guy, any closing thoughts?
I don't know. Like, let's just be good about vetting our takes. There's a lot of wild takes flying around there. If you see something that says something like Republicans stole the election, they probably didn't. And if you're liberal, if you want to believe that, it's probably because you really want to believe that. You know, if you're a Republican and you see something that says like, I don't know, that liberals are stupid and that's why they lost the
Well,
election is because, you know, like I don't know, don't believe anything that you that demonizes the other side and that is an easy win for you. I guess because it's really easy to see those takes and want to fall for them, but you know, I don't know, especially for me, that's one thing that
yeah,
I've been doing in the last, couple days is like, you know what, like we lost, too bad, so sad, and you know, it's it'd be really easy to kind of have like bad takes like Trump voters are stupid or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's probably a lot more boring, to be
sure.
honest. Honestly, I think most things are more boring or more complicated um, than the 5 second take that you see.
Yeah.
So don't
My
fall for the
worry
five
is
second take.
Kamala Harris is the one who actually has to certify the election,
Yeah,
being
no.
vice president.
I mean,
That
she will. She'll do it.
You know what I think you guys should do? Gather at the Capitol. Maybe throw a date out there. January
Just like a
6th.
bunch of people just
Just a bunch
randomly,
of people having a
just
good time, and just,
uh,
you make your voices heard. And just,
yeah,
you walk in there,
just kind of, yeah.
forever will be known as, the best day in Democratic history. For our democracy, which isn't really democracy. It's a constitutional republic, you dumb fucks.
Well, yeah, but also I
Learn the
feel like
definition!
whenever people say that it's a constitutional republic, it's an
Oh, but a
attempt.
constitutional republic is a type of democracy. No, democracy is mob rule. We have a constitutional republic.
Okay, yeah, but I feel like often constitutional republic take is used like people are like it's not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic, and then that's used to justify something that's very authoritarian, which is also not what we want or what we are.
I
So,
see no reason why
um,
we shouldn't just assign women husbands. I mean, Trump won. That's what's going to happen now.
Evan,
Let's just start Project 20 Weston. Project 2025 was the plan the whole time. I don't know if we were kind of lying about that. It's been real this whole time. Now we can finally admit it. Handmaid's Tale is coming to life, baby.
Evan, I'm gonna text you something because it's too devastating to say over air. But
Oh my god. I'm joking. Of course I am. What are you texting me? Why are we still on air right now? You know what? I'm not gonna read. If it's funny enough, I'll read it on air. Hold on. Typing. Ooh, my hockey fantasy team just scored a goal. There we go. After a loss last week. All right, let's see this. Let's see this. Oh. he just he just types. Yeah, this is why you're single, Evan. I thought this was gonna be something like, dude, my mother, my sister's really devastated about this.
No.
It's
just saying, like,
God, that's fantastic. Okay, I don't think we can end on anything better than that. All right, stick around. We're gonna be interviewing Stefan, our British friend, talking about his perspective on the election. It'll be a fun time.
all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week. Have a good one. Keep it unorthodox. We will see you soon. Stop.